Well, hello, everyone. It's John Laughland here. I'm the director of Forum for Democracy International. Welcome to this week's forum. I'm joined by my co-host Peter Lavelle from Moscow, and we are immensely honored and humbled, really, to be joined by Dr. Setareh Sadeqi, who joins us from Iran itself, I believe from Isfahan. Is that correct?
That's
Setareh,
correct.
you're not in Tehran, but in Isfahan. I say humbled and honored because you have a substantial following on X, and you are a professor of American Studies at the University of Tehran, and humbled because you've given us your time in what must be absolutely horrific conditions. You'll tell us about them, I'm sure. Since the war started 10 days ago, since Iran was attacked by Israel and the United States, we've heard ever more increasingly extreme statements from the American side. Only a couple of hours ago, or perhaps yesterday, Donald Trump threatening death, destruction, and fury, or death, fire, and fury, or some other psychopathic statement like that. He also said that there wouldn't be anything left in Iran after the Americans had finished with it, and so Iran would not be able to reconstitute itself as a nation at all. And on the Iranian side, there have also been very strong statements, not surprisingly, including that Iran does not intend this time to be lured back into what it now regards as a trap of a ceasefire, only giving time for the Israelis and the Americans to draw breath and rearm, as they did last year. And also, I've seen one or two things, I think, from senior officials in the Islamic Republic saying that they now want this war to change the whole balance, really, of the Middle East. And, for instance, finish off with American bases in the Gulf and put an end to any possible future Israeli aggression. Dr. Sadeqi, do you think Iran can achieve those kinds of goals?
Well, I think Iran is determined to push this war until this is achieved. And the public demand inside the country is also that this time we should not stop until our demands are met. Because we were in the midst of negotiations with the United States after the United States had unilaterally withdrew from in 2015 from a deal agreed on between 6 different powers. The U.S. just unilaterally withdrew, scrapped the deal because you know how Trump always frames it, because it was Obama's terrible deal and he didn't want Obama's terrible deal. He wanted to do it himself. But while we were in the midst of the negotiations, he and Bibi Netanyahu attacked Iran. So for us, for Iranians, both the officials and the public, there is no guarantee that there will be no renewal of aggressions at this point if we stop. We need to make our demands, and we need to see that our demands are met. And as he's mentioned, the balance of power in the region has changed in favor of Iran, and we will stop that. And, Iran is not attacking outside of its region. We are from here, but for America to come all the way, it's like thousands of miles, and station its warships and war equipment here, it's not only against international law, but also it's very costly for the United States to continue this war. Whereas for Iran, of course it's costly, but it's not maybe 1/10 of what it will cost the United States. And
well, that's
at this
one of
point,
the
Iran
arguments which people use on the, let's say, pro-Iranian side, or on the Americano-Israelo-skeptic side. They say that, for a drone that costs a few tens of thousands of dollars, they can, take out a cruise missile or whatever, or it needs a cruise missile or a Tomahawk missile or whatever, to costing $1 million to take out these drones. But is that then? Do you? And of course the propaganda on the American Israeli side and the censorship is absolutely terrible. And we're all, I think, struggling. Certainly, I am, to understand what in fact is happening. You know, people are endlessly posting pictures. I don't know. They'll post a picture of a building that's been destroyed, and they say Tel Aviv today, and you've no idea whether it's Tel Aviv. It could be Timbuktu for all we know. It's just a picture of a block. How do you assess, and are you able to assess Iran's ability to achieve these goals, whether it's with drones and missiles hitting Israel and the Gulf countries, whether it's keeping the Strait of Hormuz closed, whether it's simply sustaining the level of bombardment, which obviously the Americans can unleash, they can do it. How do you assess Iran's ability to sustain this kind of attack and indeed to fight back?
Well, for what to the occupied territories under the control of the apartheid Israel, even though they're trying very hard and censoring any information, any images coming from, but at the end of the day, there are images coming. And what Tel Aviv and other occupied territories are experiencing is far beyond what they were expecting to happen, because both the United States and the Zionist regime thought that by taking out Iran's leader, the total establishment would collapse within a few days, and then they can just bring about chaos and perpetual, crisis in the country, balkanize the country, take out the oil-rich cities, separate them, and then go on with their plans for the country. But what happened was that Iran resisted. Iran immediately replaced the leader, and Iran has a very well-established structure. It functions, no matter how many commanders they have taken out and martyred. And there are images coming from occupied territories. Even like RT even has reported, CNN has reported, some Israeli media activists even have reported. And what we're seeing is that after Iran also destroyed a very important US-made radar in the region, now the sirens are not going on time, so there is chaos, and electricity has been cut in many or in some parts of the occupied territories. And let's also remember that the settlers there are not from Israel. A lot of these people have moved to the occupied territories because they were promised a better life. And once they're under bombardment every day for, I don't know, let's say 1 month, then a lot of them will want to leave and go back to the countries that they come from. And that doesn't happen to Iran. No matter how much the US and the Zionist regime bombard Iran, people are from here. They don't have any other place to go. They don't want to go. We're actually seeing on the border with Turkey, Iranians from other countries, residents from other countries, like after 12 years, 17 years, 5 years, 6 years, they're coming back to the country because they want to defend. And it doesn't mean that they want to become soldiers or go to the front lines, but they want to be here when we're fighting this war. So that's the difference that you have between a native population and a settler population. And that's one area where Iran definitely has the upper hand. Yes, definitely there are destruction, especially that the Zionist regime in the US have absolutely no morals during the wars. Like, according to the World Health Organization, at least more than 18 health centers have been targeted so far, like hospitals that have been demolished. And we have seen what the Zionist regime, with the help of the United States, has done in Gaza. They have obliterated all the infrastructure. So we know what these two powers are capable of doing, but what would probably stop them is just resistance. If you back down, if you surrender, they will do more. And the Zionist regime, since October, ceasefire has 1,600 times violated the ceasefire. The Zionist regime has never ever stayed true to any peace deal, any ceasefire, and so is with the United States. The United States has also breached international agreements, including the JCPOA, known as the Iran nuclear deal. So there is no guarantee that, for example, if Iran surrendered or stopped and said, okay, enough fighting, they won't attack us within a couple of weeks or months. And that's what the public wants. We want to make sure that our enemy will not attack us again. And for that to happen, Iran needs to see that the demands that it has made and put will be met.
Well, it's very interesting. It's good to see you again, Doctor. This is where the similarity with Russia and Iran they overlap, because as John and I have talked endlessly, you have these silly Europeans coming up with a new idea, a new plan, security guarantees, all these endless amounts of money for a corrupt regime. And the Russian position has been very, very clear for a very long time, over 2.5 years now. And everything that you're saying, and our good friend Mohammed Morandi, it's exactly the same thing. Is that, and I keep trying to implore the POM people, is that yes, there will be negotiations eventually to end this conflict, eventually, and it will be Iran that will be dictating the terms. They're going to say, these are the things we're going to talk about. We're not interested in what you want. If you want this conflict to end, and we all do, it's going to be on our terms. Number one, all American bases in the Gulf must leave, maybe all through the Middle East as well. Iran will be control the energy routes going out of the Persian Gulf. They will be the guarantor of that. How much further we can go about recognizing a free Palestinian state, what that would be my dream list, but that would be down the line. But it's going to be, as I talk with Alistair Cook very often, is that, the Americans always want a deal. Well, Iran and Russia, they want a treaty, okay, an enforceable, recognized treaty with a velvet fist necessary to enforce it. This is why this is a game changer. That's why Iran and Russia and others are learning, is that you have to draw the line. Negotiations will only bring you trouble. And that is what the West has done to the world. No one is going to trust the United States right now. Look, in a few days, there's supposed to be more negotiations, Ukraine-Russian negotiations. Come on, nobody takes that seriously. That's the fault of the Americans. And that will be the downfall of, and that's why this is a strategic blunder, because why would anyone in the Gulf trust the Americans now? Why? There's no reason to trust them. Oh, we'll bring in THAAD missiles for Israel, but not for you.
I think that's clear, certainly to me, and I'm sure to many of the people watching us. But again, I'm very nervous when I see people who are, let's say, on our side of the argument. I mean, Pepe Escobar is one of them, but there are many, many examples of this, saying, right now Iran is going to fire off the big one. Now it's going to, respond with hypersonic missiles or whatever. And, finally, the Zionists and the Americans are going to back down. My fear is that, of course, we understand that those are the goals. I totally agree with you. And the analogy with Russia is very good. But Russia hasn't been able to impose its will in these 4 years yet. Maybe it's for next week, maybe next month, who knows? But it's taken a very, very long time. And Iran is surely, let's say, weaker, I mean, relatively speaking, than Russia. Russia is an extremely powerful military country. So my question again is, can Iran, of course, Iran wants these things, absolutely. And I'm sure many other people do too. But how much can Iran sustain if the Americans go completely psychotic, or even more psychotic than they already are, and start, as you've already suggested, Dr. Sadeqi, you've said they're killing, they're bombing a lot of hospitals and health centers and other infrastructure things and so on. What is the real balance of power? Or is it simply that Iran can hunker down for, let's say, I don't know, a month, a few weeks, a month, a couple of months, take the hits, which will be horrific, and by that alone, and perhaps also by closing the Strait of Hormuz, which obviously they've done, can Iran, is that a strategy that can work?
Well, I think Iran's strength doesn't come only from its military equipment and facilities. It also comes from the very well-established structure that we have. As I said, just think about how many IRGC and military commanders they have assassinated. They have assassinated our most popular leader. Like I think the entire world was expecting the establishment to collapse, but it did not. And that's the strength point that Iran has, apart from all the military facilities that we have established and we have made over the years. Iran has also said that we have not even started the bigger part of the war, bigger part of, for example, our more advanced missiles and everything. But I think it's also very important to remember that even though the destruction that we're seeing caused by these two evil powers in the world, they are still the paper tiger. They have been also suffering a lot. Iran controlling the Strait of Hormuz and controlling and having a great impact on oil prices, and then the global economy, the market will. I mean, it still hasn't. We still have to wait until we see the the terrible consequences that it could have for the global economy market and the oil market. And Iran will exercise more power in that term. But just like you said, I mean, Russia, yeah, it's taking 4 years and a lot of fighting, but Russia is still willing to fight because they know there are defending their country, and they know that the only way to push back this aggression is to continue fighting. And this is the same for Iran. For Iran, it's an existential war, but for the US, it's a war of their choice. They came and attacked us. They could have just refrained from that. They chose to attack and launch a war against Iran. And by the way, even though a lot of Americans are being sacrificed for Israel, and Trump has always been about make Israel great again rather than make America again, this is a war of America too. I would not accept any arguments that I would say that, oh, this is all for Israel. No, this is also about the US, because the US wishfully thought that they would gain control over Iran's oil resources and they could balkanize the country, and it did not happen. Even I mean, taking everything like that has happened right now, how Iran has showcased its power. So far, Iran is the winner. You can see the headlines even coming from mainstream media and the West that they're worried about how long America can go with this war without losing more. I mean, Iran took, well, let's say, using the American narrative, in a friendly fire, 3 fighter jets were taken down in Kuwait. Okay, let's say that was friendly fire. What were you doing? Like, let's say Iran didn't do that, but you took 3 fighter jets and a friendly fire. That's the status of your military power. And Iran has identified CIA hotel rooms, radars, bases and everything, and very precisely targeting them. And also to again remember how powerful Iran has been fighting this war, for the Israeli regime and the US to attack Iran, to launch missiles or drop bombs on Iran. Iran is the only country that is defending Iran. So Iran is being alone in that. But for Iranian missiles to reach their targets in the occupied territories, they have to go over 20-something defense systems, and still they reach their targets. But this is the balance of power there. Iran is actually fighting very strongly. And of course, I mean, Trump is talking about how he's going to end this war. They have targeted whatever they wanted, and he's always this man of ego. He will come out and say, "Oh, we won," but he will never say, "Okay, what were the objectives that you had? Only just destruction, like destroying UNESCO heritage sites?" Because for people to remember, in 2020, in his first term in office, he tweeted out and said that he has identified 51 sites that are very important to Iranians' culture, and he will hit them. And that's exactly what he's doing. He's targeting schools, hospitals, World Heritage Centers. That's not winning the war. I mean,
I would argue that this is the Israelization or Zionization of American foreign policy, because I'm put in a very bad position. How this is significantly well, empire's bad, by default, in my opinion. Okay, but this is something that is very different. The killing of all those young girls. And the babbling nonsense coming out of the it's so offensive. It so injures your conscience, and it's just this. This is just the price of doing business. Even the American people don't like that. Okay, I mean they'll go along with the propaganda of success and empire. What is it? A mission accomplished, and our turn, and all that. How that is. But this is something different, and I think that this is such an assault on any kind of sense of humanity. And also, when I look at the 12-Day War, I look at the shenanigans of the rent-a-crowd riots that you went through, and then we have this, and I have a lot of admiration. You're still standing. And that's because it is existential for you. It's an annoyance for American consumers. I mean, Trump's ridiculous tariff strategy, it only hurt the middle class in the United States. That's it. It didn't hurt anyone else in the world particularly. Okay, and they're angry about that, and they're souring very much on Trump. But you're living in a society that is experiencing amazing foreign assaults, one after another, and yet we're speaking to you in a very calm voice, and you're giving us a very calm and very sophisticated argument. You don't see that in American media. There's no what is it, John? I don't know if you saw it. Short-term pain for long-term gain.
Yes, I saw that compilation. That was
exactly.
Wow, a lot of.
No, I mean the state of
exactly.
Public discourse is absolutely revolting. I mean, Hegseth's press conference from a couple of days ago, when he said, it's not an equal fight and we'll kick them when they're down and so on. And then I already referred to Trump's Truth Social post from only a couple of hours ago about destroying Iran as a nation. Dr. Sadeqi, when you, in your earlier remarks, you've made a couple of references to occupied territories. Just a question of vocabulary. Are you referring to the West Bank and Gaza, or are you referring to the whole of the state of Israel when you use the word occupied?
The whole. I'm referring to the parts of Palestine that are under control of Israel.
So you're referring to the whole of what we call the state of Israel, not just the
exactly.
not just the part. Yeah. Okay. And is it part? I mean, my first question was about these very substantial war aims that Iran has declared. Is it what is Iran's what are Iran's war aims where Israel is concerned? Is it to weaken it so that it can't do this again, or is it ultimately to try to make that state disappear?
And if I could add on to that, Doctor, is there a conscious desire to break the relationship that the United States has with Israel? I'm sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
I mean, I think that would be an ideal outcome, but at this point, the occupation of Palestine is not one of Iran's demands. I think Iran believes that that's something that the Palestinians are capable of. Of course, weakening this regime will eventually lead to that, and when the settlers do not feel safe staying there and starts mass immigration out of the country, it will definitely help bring an end to the settler colonial project in the region. And a lot of people in the region are...
Have we lost her?
Let's see here.
Are actually looking social media comments, seeing an end to this colonial project, and it will bring hope to a lot of people who have felt colonialism and imperialism, but also people in the region that have been target of Israel's aggression in Lebanon, in Syria, in Iran, in even the monarchies. Like Qatar came under attack by Israeli during negotiations with Hamas, and they were just totally unable to do anything in response to their aggression. But the people of Qatar, the people of Bahrain, the people in all these countries do want to see an end to this, aggressive power in the region. But I don't think that at this point is something that Iran is looking forward. And as I said, I think that's up to Palestinians. Palestinians are the one who are going to decide what's going to happen to their land, and they are capable of doing that, even though the entire international community, so-called international community, does not care about the genocide and ethnic cleansing of them. But they continue their resistance. For what the other demands that the like Iran has made, it's to the benefit of the region. Like if these monarchies in the region understand that the US has not benefited them at all, they will, I mean, the people at least, they will welcome it, because even during this war with Iran, the US abandoned all of them. They did not have any power to defend themselves. They had to face Iran's targeting of US interests and bases in the region without being able to move a finger. And that's not what the people want. And let's also not forget that countries like, for example, UAE, less than 20% of the residents are citizens. So the vast majority are indentured service or just Americans, Zionists doing business there. And if they feel unsafe, if business is not happening anymore, if their CIA hotel room is targeted there, they don't want to stay there anymore. So it is very, very achievable. And I think Iran will push for that.
It's very interesting is that these Gulf monarchies, they've just, at the end of the day, they're just brands for a Western investment. And, you know, it's very interesting is that because the United States did not defend their allies, as they call them here. And there is a difference between these families and then everybody else. And that distinction isn't made very often. I know, like, Bahrain is a very good example. They've welcomed the possibility of a change of the status quo. I mean, it's really quite interesting is that we have all this going on in the region, and the Saudis send troops to Bahrain. That tells you a lot. They're not trying to send troops, you know, to Iran or join up with the Israelis here. But I mean, it's very interesting because these are brand monarchies, or what, they're not even really nation states. They're just families, but they have a lot of money. And if the United States isn't going to back them, then we're going to see the petrodollar come under enormous stress. There are plenty of people that love to take their money. Okay, I think that is the most immediate outcome of this conflict here. Number one, steadfastness on the part of Iran and its people, and then people are saying, "What did we spend all these billions of dollars on? You won't defend us. You don't even care about this," and that will create a contagion, I think, all through these ridiculous alliances the United States has built up in the region. It seems to me because of Iran's demand, which is a very reasonable demand to have control of its sovereignty and its future, a lot of other teetering regimes are going to see there is a way out, because the alternative for these monarchies is being part of a greater Israel. Is what's worse, having not the best relations with Iran or be part of greater Israel? I even think these rich monarchies, that's not a tough choice after what we've seen.
How do you assess, Dr. Sadeqi, how do you assess the war in Lebanon? Because in fact, Israel is now fighting on two fronts, obviously, particularly with Hezbollah in southern Beirut, in southern Lebanon. How do you assess that? We've been concentrating on the effects on Iran itself, but do you have any information that you'd like to share with us about that aspect of Israel's two-front war?
Well, I don't really consider myself an expert on Lebanon, but from just what I've been following in the region and what is happening, I mean, Israel tried very hard to disarm Hezbollah, and you know, any aggressive power and imperialist power, because Zionist regime is also doing the job for the U.S. and for its own, the colonial project that is going on. It always starts with disarming, and then it's a massive attack that seeks to take them out. Hezbollah is in a very difficult situation, but especially after Iran started targeting Zionist bases and just, Israel in general, it became sort of easier for Lebanon, for Hezbollah to defend itself back. And we're seeing them launching short-range missiles and drones and targeting objectives in the occupied territories. But how long this will go and how far the Zionist regime will go, I think it also depends on how successful Iran will be to push this war until the Zionist regime and the US will accept the demand. I think that will create a huge difference in the region. And I think we'll have to wait until, once this war is over. I don't know how long this will take, but probably quite longer than what we're expecting. The balance of power will have an impact on Hezbollah too, because even though they'll try to say that Hezbollah is just an armed fraction, it's part of Lebanon. I mean, Hezbollah was a political party in Lebanon, and there are parts of the Lebanese army that do agree and do work with Hezbollah, and that's not actually. And I think actually when Lebanese see the invasion of their lands, because the Israeli regime has been trying to take Lebanese land from the south. It's not only fighting Hezbollah, it's about the sovereignty of Lebanon. Then you will have more people again on the side of Hezbollah that will want to defeat the Zionist regime. Because one thing that people should understand about this region is that no matter how much or how many grievances people have with their own governments, they have always considered the Zionist regime their enemy, because the Zionist regime has brought destruction, massacre, ethnic cleansing, and genocide to the entire region, but also to the world. I mean, I think Americans now understand this a lot better than before, because it's basically them paying the price for all the wars that this colonial project wants to get engaged in. And people are fed up with that. I talk to people, for example, in Latin America, where there has been a Zionist influence. Let's take the Argentinian president bragging about being the most Zionist president in the world. The people don't want that. The people are not happy with that.
Well,
so it's
actually a Catholic country. Okay, I'm sorry.
Exactly.
Dr. Lee, we've learned ever since this unprovoked war was started about how the political structures of Iran, it was intentionally designed to be decentralized, in which there are different military districts and whatnot, keeping in mind that there's always this strategy of decapitation. But how is the economy run this way? I mean, Tehran is under massive attack here, but it's a huge country, 90 million people. I mean, did they have in mind a decentralization of the economy? I mean, you have to drink water, you have to eat food. If you're hundreds and hundreds of kilometers away from Tehran, you want to kind of hope that the locals are taking care of each other, because, well, Tehran's got its hands full right now. So is it decentralized? Was that part of the plan as well?
Yeah, in terms of economy also, we have, it is, I would say, decentralized, and most cities produce their own food and the water. There is, of course, interdependency between the cities, but the majority of the cities are able to afford and continue living even when there's under the conditions of the war. And this is what a lot of people have been actually reporting. Even in Tehran, until now, there's no feeling of shortage of food or fruit. Like There are videos of people, because we're less than 10 days away from Nowruz, which is our New Year, and you can see people are, despite everything that has been happening and horrible things that have been happening, people are out on the streets doing their shoppings, their normal daily activities. In Isfahan, where I am, things have not really been impacted at all. There have been attacks. Especially for a few days, we heard a lot of fighter jets flying over the city, bombs being dropped on even very, very close to a massive gathering happening in the historical site, which is like a plus 400 years old, like a square with a palace, like 2 palaces and 2 mosques around it. And these parts of these buildings have been damaged by the bombings, and people, like hundreds of thousands of people, were in the square chanting in support of their governments, and they heard the explosion. The square was filled with smoke and plumes, but they stayed there to defend their countries. And that's also one thing that a lot of people do not understand or underestimate, the power of the people. Like, some of these people that have been interviewed, that were the same people who took part in the protests during January, over the economic situation, but they understand this is about the sovereignty of their country. It's not about their economic grievances. And yes, the businesses are doing online businesses have been affected, because the situation makes it difficult to do it. Some businesses are having a more difficult time, but in terms of food, dairy, fruit, meat, and everything, it has not been interrupted at all in different cities, in Tehran and other cities.
One of the most striking things from the American and Israeli side, particularly from the American side, is the presence of apocalyptic and end times discourse.
Yeah.
The Christian Zionists, obviously being the most obvious example, but also 1 or 2 elements of Benjamin Netanyahu's discourse, where he, as you know, invokes biblical references to justify the current aggression. Is there also an apocalyptic element in Iran? Is there also Iran? Of course, the Islamic Republic has this notion in its constitution, doesn't it, and in its raison d'être, that the hidden imam will return and so on, and the supreme leader is merely, as it were, his vicar until his return. You've described, Dr. Sadeqi, the fight very much in very easy to understand nationalist, national resistance terms, also, of course, denouncing the Zionist entity, the occupied territories, and so on. But how important is the religious element, which clearly has a significant presence in the United States of America and perhaps in Israel as well? How significant is it in the Islamic Republic?
And can you stress how the Shia faith is part of what John just asked right there? Because you do know,
Sure.
being an expert on Americas, that, and I won't repeat the derogatory language, but I was in high school during the revolution, and how Iran and Iranians have been depicted since then. Well, you know what? Okay, so if you can add, kind of put that sprinkling of what Shia means to all of this, because most people in the West don't have a clue, and that is by design. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I think it's very, I don't know what to call it, ironic or ridiculous that a pedophile president and a war criminal with a genocide case going on claim that they are, doing this crusade to bring to.
Well, it's on his chest. It's on his chest.
Exactly. Yeah, he has the Jerusalem, the symbol of crusade, and on his chest, Peter Hexes. And it's absolutely insane that these war criminals, and as I said, pedophile, the Epstein regime, as Dr. Marandi also very correctly calls them, claim that they have to do anything with Jesus Christ. Because, again, unlike what a lot of people might like not know about Iran or Islam, Jesus Christ is very, very important in Islam. You cannot be a Muslim without believing in Jesus Christ and Saint Mary. There's an entire chapter named after Saint Mary in the Quran, and Jesus is mentioned multiple times. In terms of the Iran's ideology and the Shia ideology, yes, we also think that we're fighting for establishing justice in the world and preparing the ground for the return of our 12th Imam, which is the Savior, Imam Mahdi. But it's not, we always have had this on anything that you do. So for Shias, it's a lifestyle. So every day you want to do something that would make Imam Mahdi happy. You want to do something that would spread the truth and raise awareness, because as part of the return and reappearance of Imam Mahdi, it's very important to raise awareness so that people will welcome him when he comes. And by the way, we believe that he will return together with Jesus Christ to establish justice. So Jesus Christ is also a savior for us, and we're waiting for him to come back. There's actually a very beautiful mural in Venezuela in one of the squares. There's a painting of Jesus Christ and Imam Mahdi together, and then Iranian revolutionary figures and Venezuelan revolutionary figures, which I found it very beautiful, and it's a reminiscence of there's so much commonalities there's so many commonalities that exist between Christianity and Islam. And as you said, the Western narrative, the American narrative has always been to tar these commonalities. There's so many things that we have in common to make us enemies. We have, especially after 9/11, I mean, Islamophobia has always been there, especially after we had the 1979 Popular Revolution. We have always been depicted as this dictatorship and Islamic regime, when what people do not understand is that there was a massive referendum and people voted for an Islamic republic to replace the Pahlavi regime, which was a dictatorship. We can talk about the crimes of Pahlavi for an hour or more than that. It's a separate story. But yes, it's a part of Shia theology, and a lot of people believe in that. They believe that we should continue supporting the Islamic Republic of Iran as the power against the imperialist powers that have sought to exploit nations, bring about destruction, and subjugate them. And it is part of our constitution that we will stand with any oppressed nation. This is also something that comes with believing in Imam Mahdi. Imam Mahdi is the symbol of hope. We know that at some point in history, justice will be established. There will be bloody wars. There will be very difficult battles, very difficult times, but there is hope that at the end of the day, justice will establish, and we will do anything that we can to prepare the ground for that. Another part of Shia theology, which also, completes that belief in the Mahdi and the Messiah, is that Shias take pride in martyrdom. So, for example, for our leader to be martyred while he was in his office, while he was on duty, by the worst, satanic, pedophile enemies of him, is the greatest honor possible. You could not give anyone a higher blessing, because all of us are going to die at one point. And he was 86 years old, but his life was not wasted. He died, he was killed while fighting. And that gives us also inspiration. You see people holding massive rallies out on the streets every night, and sometimes you can see in the backgrounds in the sky explosions going on or the defense system activated. And when people hear that, they start chanting that martyrdom is our honor. What are you going to do? Kill us? We're going to still here and fight for justice. And justice is a very, very important and central notion in Shia theology. The entire story of Imam Hussein and Karbala is about establishing justice and standing on the right side of history, even if we're all going to be killed. It does. So achievement is not about only defeating your enemy. It's also about staying true to your morals and to your values. And that's exactly what Iranians have learned. And I always tell my friends, if you want to understand better about Iranian people, you should read the story of Karbala and Imam Hussein. And that gives you an idea of where does the strength comes from? Why are Iranians not wanting to surrender? Because the Imam Hussein's most famous motto was never to humiliation. So we're not going to accept humiliation. You can kill us, you can destroy our infrastructure. We can always build that. Yes, it's going to be very painful. We're going to go through very heavy losses, but at least we did not give in to injustice. We did not give in to oppression and to the most satanic, the political systems in the world.
Listening to you, I'm struck by the difference between how you've described the Shiite faith, the difference between that and the kind of discourse in America that I was referring to. Okay, so we have the Christian Zionists, who are one particularly crazy apocalyptic faction, but perhaps the dominant faction is, of course, the neoconservatives. And they are also in some ways apocalyptic. They seem to want Armageddon, they want the final battle. But we don't get the impression, listening to them, that they want anything after that. They literally just want the battle for the battle. When you listen to people like Lindsey Graham, he or even Pete Hegseth for that matter, they clearly, or Trump actually, they clearly find the very notion of violence somehow intoxicating. There's this sort of nihilistic desire to wreak violence, as I've said already twice in this broadcast. Trump's latest Truth Social post about fire and fury and so on. And of course, the name of the operation, I mean, what could be more diabolical than launching a military operation with the name Fury in it? Fury is not a military virtue. Courage is a military virtue, bravery, honor, all those things, the things you've mentioned, but not fury. Fury is, on the contrary, something that surely is itself diabolical, and which, how can that possibly lead to military victory? That's not, you don't need fury in a military combat. You need, on the contrary, you need God to be you need sang-froid, as we say in English, cold. You need to keep your blood cold, not hot.
Exactly.
And that's why I asked you about these apocalyptic tendencies. They are so nihilistic in the West that go on, Peter.
Adding to that, having conveniently delegating AI to do the targeting and things like this. Again, no human responsibility. I didn't push the button. The AI did it. Okay, it's very convenient if you are nihilistic. Okay, and then the Department of War, whatever it's called right now, intentionally, it's on the record, having safeguards removed when firing missiles and engaging in kinetic action. This is and this is something that John and we go into the moral aspect a lot when we talk about our politics, because in the West that has been intentionally removed, and that's one of the problems with the West right now, because morality is key to our very existence and how we conduct ourselves in the world. But if those things are negated and you let the AI do it, then you can blissfully live in a very, very evil world. And I don't use these words very often.
No, but that is exactly the problem, isn't it, in the States? Because as again, we've referred already to Hegseth's press conference, but he said quite specifically, this is not a fair fight. So morality is specifically not part of the equation for them. And on the contrary, by the way, Thucydides wrote about this in the history of the Peloponnesian War 2,500 years ago. He said that in wartime, the words lose their meaning, and one thing that used to mean one thing then means something else. And so prudence and foresight and all those virtues, all those political virtues are chucked overboard, and instead recklessness and dishonesty and revenge, all these satanic virtues, they are instead applauded in the sort of hysteria of war. I've just
I mean,
listened. Maybe you have too.
mhm.
Sorry, I'll finish in a second. But to Scott Ritter describing the way that the girls' school was bombed. Apparently, one of the did you see this? One of the missiles was somehow circling around and went down at the time when I don't know whether with
Yeah, double
AI or
tap.
yeah, it actually as people were rushing towards some sort of
Well,
shelter.
I mean, and George, I'm
Exactly.
sorry, George, John, the last missile that hit this ordinance is designed
Yeah,
that if it has extra fuel
yeah,
when it hits
exactly.
the
Yeah.
target, it incinerates.
Mm.
Again, this is not to destroy. This was intended to destroy people, not a
That's right.
warehouse.
Yeah, Dr. Sadeqi.
Yeah, it was very precisely targeted. And I mean, we have seen what the Zionist regime, with the help of the US, with the arms and the money of the US, has done to Palestinians. Like hospitals were just, well, totally destroyed. In Iran, also, hospitals were targeted. And when the US and the Zionist regime brag about their precision missiles and all the facilities that they have, it's how can you accept that this was, collateral damage or was by mistake? It's totally deliberate, and especially with the case of the school, the girls' school that was targeted and killed more than 180 school girls. You can clearly see the images show, as you said, that this was a deliberate attack. It was like double tap. The second time, the ones who survived the first attack were rushing to find shelter, and then the shelter, the exact place was targeted. How can that be by accident? There's no way this was by accident. This was deliberate. And I mean, in the rhetoric of the US officials, you can see how they're bragging about destruction and death, bringing destruction and death to an
Yeah.
entire nation. Now they're not even talking about Islamic Republic anymore. It's about the Iranian nation. And talking about the moral bankruptcy of these regimes, you will never see anything similar Iran doing to even the Zionist regime. And they have always been saying that, oh, Iran wants as a threat to the peace or the security or, I don't know, to Israel. But even to the Zionist regime, Iran would never do that, has never done anything similar to that. And we have never demonized an entire nation. We know that our fight, and you can repeatedly see that in the rhetoric of Iranian officials, that this is about fighting class of Epstein and Rothschild corrupt officials. We're not considering this as a fight against like a crusade or another nation. It's all about fighting back against the people who have targeted us, and we're not doing more than that.
All the more so, and I watched this obviously very carefully. I've never heard once, not once, an Iranian official say the Jews. Never.
Exactly. Exactly. You will never see that because we have, and another thing that a lot of people are probably very ignorant on is that we have a Jewish community. We have active synagogues here. We have Jewish member of parliament.
Sure.
The city that I come from, Isfahan, has a Christian community and a Jewish community and a Muslim community. And actually, Isfahan is a very traditional conservative city. And still, these groups have for centuries lived together very peacefully. And you can just walk to churches, cathedral, and synagogues and see that they don't have any issues with each other, and we have been living peacefully. And actually, a lot of the Jewish people in Iran, or the Jewish Iranians, are anti-Zionist. They're not happy with what Israel is doing, and they understand that they have been also, because the anti-Zionist Jews have also been victims of Zionism and the Israeli regime, and they understand that.
Yeah, no, indeed. We saw a statement by the chief rabbi of Iran condemning the Israeli attacks. Dr. Sadeqi, we're going to wrap up. Is there anything you feel that we haven't covered? It's been absolutely wonderful listening to you. Is there any last point you'd like to make before we come to the top of the hour?
Oh, thank you for this conversation, and thank you for trying to raise awareness. And I know the massive anti-Iran propaganda makes it very difficult to find the truth, and this opens a window into an ocean of unknown things about Iran. And I hope people will continue fighting disinformation about Iran and all the countries that the United States and the Zionist regime want to dehumanize in order to justify an attack on.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. I think that I think you may have mentioned this earlier, that I think there has been a sea change. Of course, it doesn't concern everybody, but I think the last couple of years with the Israeli operation in Gaza have caused a lot of people to change. In the United States, in Britain to some extent, although you don't see it in the media. But I think there has been a change, and of course those people will similarly start changing their minds about the Islamic Republic. Go ahead, Peter.
Well, John, I was just going to say that, that at least the tenor and the trajectory of our conversation, if someone were to see this 3 years ago, they would have no idea what we're talking about. Our conversation right now, it's part of the debate. No, we'll be demonized for having this conversation. I'm fully prepared for that. But there's going to be a lot of people say, these people have a point. 3 years ago, that was impossible.
Yeah. Well, listen, Dr. Sadeqi, we'd love to have you back. I fear that this issue will continue for a long time, and that we will be returning, unfortunately, to the war in Iran again. And if we do, I hope that you'll be kind enough to do us the honor again of coming back on the show, because it's been wonderful to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed, and all the best. God bless. All the best. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.